The Startup CTO's Handbook, Essential Skills and Best Practices for High-Performing Engineering Teams. Reading through this handbook, it's kind of obvious that guess what? It's not just for CTOs, it's for anyone in engineering or trying to start a business, anything related to technology. Best practices are present in this guide. Generally, this book can be applied to any discipline or role within the company, and it's generally how things work and processes work and how you provide and apply best practices in regards to technology and engineering. In the handbook, we have a lot of different topics to go over, including general business processes, people, culture, management, and things like that for coaching. That all occurs regardless of what level you are within the company. Are you starting a business? These are best practices in general from engineering considerations. Perhaps even more generally, hiring and interviewing, this is a common practice that could be applied to many roles, maybe not even just engineering, just any sort of skilled role. Those aspects can be applied into what we learn here. Now, while most of the items in this list, if not the majority, represent any sort of role within the engineering organization, we can see that there is a couple, specifically one right here, that does align with a CTO in describing what kind of CTO you are within the business, because there are typically multiple kinds. Let's take a quick look here at what kinds of CTOs there are at startups. I believe there are 3 kinds based on this document. And it says there is a tech-focused CTO, a people-focused CTO, and an externally focused CTO. They're all different. However, if you are founding a company or starting a company, you kind of focus on all those areas and disciplines. This is the one section of the CTO handbook here that's written in Markdown, which I like, it's very nice, that actually relates to a CTO's role. Everything else tends to be kind of general purpose for any engineer. As a tech-focused CTO, you'll typically be involved with leading foundational technology for the business, so things that are leveraged by all the engineering teams, such as maybe a foundational way of deploying tech and Kubernetes and sort of creating a cohesive environment so that way everything's uniform and operational, and it becomes easier to maintain, because the challenge is once you write lines of code, that becomes debt within the organization. And so you have to be able to manage that debt in a way that's cost effective. The tech-focused CTO may also be heavily involved in research and development, creating proofs of concepts and other sort of projects that help get you off the ground quickly so that way you can get to market. That's key and critical. Getting the market quickly is absolutely necessary for any business, even a startup, you name it. You need to get to market quickly, and being a tech-focused CTO allows you to help accelerate those timelines. In the Startup CTO Handbook, we also see a second kind of CTO here represented as a people-focused CTO, usually in conversations with sort of managing the overall organization, directly having reports. This typically might also be VP of engineering, right? Where they oversee the growth of the organization, roles, team structure, coordination efforts, meetings. All those things kind of go into the form of the people-focused CTO, which is another common type role the CTO might take. In this case of a people-focused CTO, you'll spend most of your time managing people directly and having conversations with them in their day-to-day, meeting with them on one-on-ones, and things along those lines. That is the people-focused CTO. The externally focused CTO, which is the third kind I list here, where you're talking a lot with sales and prospects and existing customers. You're also spending time in marketing, creating content and videos and things like that, blog posts. It's mentioned here that role is often found in companies that build products for technical audiences. That is PubNub, right? We're an API company that builds edge messaging technology to deliver event-driven architecture into your organization. Now, this is something that I have been spending a lot of my time on recently, and it's interesting they mention here that it tends to be easy for founder CTOs, which is, where I'm at. We started the company, I know where all the technology is, how all the pieces work together, and that helps me be able to communicate how our technology works to our existing customers and our prospects. And this is what we do. It's also noted here that transitioning between types happens quite often, where you're adapted into all 3 of those areas. Guess what? I can say it's true. This has happened to me. Over the years, all those roles have been necessary as we've been different sizes of the company, need to hire and scale teams, but then also needing to jump in and hire and to scale the technologies. Like, oh no, we need to get better at auto-scaling and new technologies like Kubernetes and service discovery, those kinds of things. But then also having the opportunity to jump in and communicate how our technology works to prospects and existing customers. That's the kind of thing that I tell you that this part is accurate. Now we can dive further into this handbook because it basically covers most of what you need to know, all from running a business perspective from a technology standpoint, and a lot of it involves technical team management and the ways to communicate with your team, finding different opportunities or patterns to lean on. This is a fantastic article from that perspective. It doesn't necessarily relate entirely to a CTO role. It could be any role from that perspective will have a significant advantage, even if you're a manager or the lead on a team. This handbook will provide all the details that you need in footing that foundation. An important takeaway from the Startup CTO Handbook is that you need to continue to learn forever. It's a forever learning. It could be a heavy burden, but always learning is key and critical. Everything in the industry, all related to technology, guess what? It changes, it improves. There's something better every single day. There's something new. And trying to keep up with that is a lot of time that's needed to be spent. It's time consuming, but it is something that is a universal truth. You need to be continuously learning and self-improving. That is something that is true, not just from a CTO, but from any role in an engineering organization. Before we wrap up here, I wanted to do one quick call out to developer experience in the DevOps world. Guess what? The kind of goal is to help engineering teams be successful without them having to do a lot of extras. Let's give a for instance here. Say the engineering team, they're building a product. All they really want to do is write the code and deliver the product at the end of the day. Everything beyond that can be turned into developer happiness, a developer experience where we have a full end-to-end CI/CD system that automatically takes their code, bundles it up, deploys it to an infrastructure, runs tests against it, right? Do smoke tests, load tests, spec tests, mech tests, user tests, integration tests. It does all those things, and then it can take it and deliver it into a production environment and roll it out in a seamless fashion. That's the best possible world, right? Imagine you have teams of engineers that are just writing and producing code. They click a button and say it's ready to go, git push, for example. Maybe we merge into master through a PR and a workflow process where we have peer reviews. All of that, after that's done, magic happens. That's where the developer experience comes in, and DevOps having that full end-to-end experience where the developer teams, all they have to do, they produce the code and the developer happiness pops in there, and on their way, they get to be as productive as they can be without getting disrupted by, oh no, the build failed over here or this happened over there. Obviously, there's going to be challenges like that. However, the best you can do is provide a really seamless experience for all the development teams, in this case, in a uniform fashion. Now, a bad developer experience is when you've disrupted the team and they've destroyed their afternoon of productivity. For example, they got a cryptic error message here. I like this example where they're trying to spin up a microservice and it just doesn't work. And it's related to the architecture itself, not necessarily related to the code from the engineer, or it could be related to the code, but there's no way for them to know why that's the case. And if this is happening for this team, it can happen for other teams. So being able to provide a really good developer experience, and some companies call this the developer happiness team. This is critical because this will help unstick all of the challenges that your teams can run into and then help them be productive as they write code. So if you intend to read the CTO Startup Handbook, you'll actually gain an advantage no matter what role you're in. If you're looking for the management track, for example, half of this handbook is related to best practices with team management and coaching. And the other half of this handbook is related to just the general technical overall architecture management guidance, the platform, and best practices. All of that is covered as well. This is general. This can apply to essentially everyone in an engineering organization. Anything related to the technical architecture, the management, the debt, the roadmaps, DevOps, testing, best practices. This is the part that will relate to everyone. So there is a good chunk of this handbook that is just guaranteed to be related to what you're working on every single day. Zach Goldberg is the author of the Startup CTO Handbook, and big thanks to Zach for putting all of this together. It covers just about everything that you need to know from starting a business, from a technical perspective, all the details you need to know there, and all the technology and the people management. All of it's there. It's a really nice document. It's well formatted and it's a good guide. It's also really great as a reference book, right? Handbook, something that you can keep in your back pocket and then jump back to when you want to sort of see, oh wait, how did Zach mention that again? Guess what? You've got the CTO Handbook and it's available to you. No matter what your role, you're going to find something useful in this handbook.